Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Monster Hunter Wilds. Today we're diving back now into my second episode of things you might not have known about Wilds, which means we have a few from the comments this time, but in these videos we aim to take a look at all of the interesting things, useful, weird, funny things you might not have known about. So let's start with something really cool. So that very cool thing we're going to start the video with is actually here in the Iceshard cliffs. Obviously loads of places connect up physically in the world. The first thing we're shown is of course that Windward Plains to Scarlet Forest entrance. But as a mechanic, it's something that kind of falls behind and essentially out the story. But what we're looking at today was brought up by a lot of people in the comments. It was actually something I wanted to talk to you guys about in the second episode even then, but a lot of people are excited about this and want me to look at it, so I'm glad we're doing it. When you're going through the main story, after you deal with the first encounter with the fourth apex, dahaad in the Iceshard cliffs, you go on this crazy run and cinematic scene to reach Suja. In that, it's kind of explosive and lots of the terrain breaks apart, and obviously it's a cool environment, but you don't really get to look at it much. But the thing is, it's there. Physically, you can walk from the Iceshard cliffs to Suja, nothing's stopping you. And in fact, this is one of the coolest areas. Something about this environment feels like it's not from Monster Hunter at all, but could even be like a Dark Souls environment. So obviously it's tied to Wyvria and the ancient civilization that's fallen, but it is essentially a massive city that you're just running through a little slice of. There's something really cool about this environment that kind of is a bit of a shame that you essentially see it in passing during the story, and for a lot of people they're never actually going to come here because there's no actual point to this, right? There's no hunts, there's no rewards. At best you got these random plants and herbs you can pick up like that. Now obviously as part of the main story there is a bit of mystery. There was something threatening the civilization and they took the risk of basically making a super monster to deal with it and all the guardians and all that. So all of it backfired and this civilization has obviously gone to dust now. But the sheer destruction is one thing. To me what's interesting is the way that it's all destroyed. It looks like it's just been cleaved apart in many places. But going down this path in particular is what brings you specifically to the ruins of Wyvria. There's actually quite a few exits in the Iceshard cliffs though. For example, by area 1, there's 2 here. The original entrance we come through from the oilwell basin, but another one even separate to the one we just looked at. It's one of the only ones that seems to have an actual loading screen just to show the raw distance between the two areas that we're going through. And obviously it gives you a great look at the dragon torch and essentially the skeleton or DNA of the world, bringing us out again into Wyvria but in a different location. This time if we go to Suja and go back to the original entrance we came from then, which was a path destroyed by dahaad in that original cinematic, we get a look at the Iceshard cliffs and the very same bridge that was destroyed in that cinematic, only now somehow it's just conveniently respawned. But it's a familiar terrain, that broken down frozen city like we were looking at earlier. It's not often in Monster Hunter games do you get to sort of really just explore an environment to look at an environment, with, you know, most of the game being about fighting monsters, understandably. But yeah, one of the coolest areas that exists in the game, and interestingly, an area where I just don't think most people are ever going to travel or even be aware that you can do that, because there's technically no reason to do it. Okay, for our next thing, I'm pretty excited to talk to you about another special Palico type that shows up in the base camp. One that I was completely unaware of. This actually comes from the comments though, so I'm excited to credit someone. Miniuk1, I hope I pronounced your name right, let us know about this special Palico. He's the one that actually helps you when you can't. So if I go ahead and take off all my equipment and go face a ferocious beast, which in this case is going to be a tempered cumatrice, it ended up one-shotting me. And here he is to revive us, pouring that healing goop all over us. Truly, vigor wasps are the solution to all hunters' problems. But what's special here is the fact that he takes up a physical space, just like that artist. So instead of just showing up, dropping on me and despawning, he physically runs all the way, wherever we are in the Windward Plains here, he'll run all the way back to base camp. At pretty good speed, to be fair. I'm struggling to keep up with him on a seikret. But yeah, he takes you all the way back into the base camp and returns to his specific location, his little cute setup here in the base camp. This is pretty insane, because they definitely didn't have to go that hard on this either. But I really appreciate it. Again, it makes the world feel a little bit more real, which is very cool. Next up, I want to talk to you about something that is actually kind of disappointing. With this theme of us having really cool details about the base camp, these interesting NPCs that take a physical space in the world, and the way they actually come back here to the base camp, it's really cool. But you know, something is missing here that was in the other Monster Hunter games. There doesn't seem to be a physical location for where you're keeping captured monsters, like there was in World, for example. You had a set location for sleeping monsters that you capture just to see them. In our main base camp, at least for the moment, there's nothing like that. And so that's reflected when you capture monsters. Take this gore, I captured it, and then after enough time of it just being in the capture and being asleep, it wakes up and runs off and despawns. Not going anywhere, not really truly being captured at all. And it's not specific to gore. We saw this in the original betas of the game and we're wondering, oh, that must just be a beta thing. Turns out it's made it to launch as well. I've done it with a bunch of different monsters just to see, like Dashagama here. And yet, when it eventually wakes up after being captured for a little while, it gets up and just runs free. So what are we actually doing when we're capturing them? I guess at best we're putting them to sleep, having a look at them. Alma makes some notes. Maybe we take some pictures, I don't know. And then we're just letting it go. Reminds me of like a fisherman that never actually keeps the fish. But I do think it's a shame because it's cool to be able to capture a cool monster and then take a look at it sleeping in the base. Next up, a couple things to do with the arena that I want to quickly mention. So if you didn't know, you can take out your tool, the binoculars, and aim at a monster. And it will tell you about extra information if there's anything special about it. Like for example, if it's a small or large crown. A cool detail about this is if you do find something that is a crown that you care about, you can actually pull up the map like you would any monster and make an investigation for it. And for that investigation, it will be that copy of the monster, which means for 3 hunts, you'll have whatever that crown was, allowing you to share that crown with others. It actually makes collecting crowns super easy compared to other games, because if you go online, I'm sure there's people posting about it, maybe there's even discords or something out there, but if you want to do it manually yourself, you can farm out these crowns thanks to the arena. The Wounded Hollow is not a seeded locale for some reason, which means you can go in there, aim your binoculars at a monster and see if it's got a crown that you want, and if not, leave to another locale, and then just return to the arena. You don't have to rest or do any special resetting, you just go to a different place and come back. And with that, it refreshes that version of the monster, and maybe now it's a crown. So you can keep doing this with whatever monster's in there at the time to spam it out and eventually find the crown you want. And again, even here in this context, you could save it as an investigation to share with others. So getting all your crown collecting done, if that's your desire, is a lot easier right now. If they patch this at some point, that would suck. So maybe you want to make use of it now while you can. But for another example of something interesting to do with the arena, did you know that monster invasions are actually in wilds? We might not have the old basil right at the moment, but we do have Chatacabra. Yes, when I was dealing with this arkveld in an arena hunt, I was constantly dealing with a Chatacabra at the same time for some reason. There's only meant to be one monster in the arena at one time, but obviously as time progresses, the current monster might leave and a new one might come in. So I assumed what's happening here is the next monster in the list is just coming in, but because you're actively fighting the current monster, they overlap, which is unexpected, but yeah, it can happen. So even something as simple as a Chatacabra can be really annoying when you're facing something like a gore or an arkveld, just interrupting you. Anyway, it's certainly not something that's only happened to me. There was this popular Twitter clip of exactly this happening, but in this case, they weren't dealing with an arkveld, but a gore. And instead of a Chatacabra that showed up, it was an arkveld, which apparently caused them to cart and lose this hunt. In my experience though, having saved that arkveld investigation where Chatacabra came and invaded, that happened all 3 investigations. Because whenever I saved that investigation, I guess that's when Chatacabra was about to be coming in, and so it did it all 3 times. Be warned. Last time we took a look at a bunch of different weapons and interesting properties about them, like how some weapons are visually larger than what they should be on your back and how they squish them, or cool changes in weapons like, say, Lalabarina and the way that the rose essentially blooms on certain weapons. It's really cool. Well, something that I didn't realize is to do with the arkveld dual blades here, which are pretty cool dual blades, but ones sadly we're not really going to see right now. And that's just because of the way the meta of the game is right now. Most of the best weapons are ultimately all artian weapons, and so we're all holding a load of artian weapons. So what I was unaware of is the fact that some weapons transform with specific modes. Demon mode with the dual blades activates a unique change in the visuals for the arkveld dual blades by basically revealing the chains of the monster. This is so cool. One of the only other weapons that I've seen with these kind of physics are, say, the SNS dahaad. So the Jin dahaad SNS is more like a flail. So we have these kind of ridiculous whipping chains. These physics are a little bit over the top, but I kind of love them. They seem to activate during your demon mode and then go back in when you come out of that. And funnily enough, when I go into archdemon mode, they do retransform into the usual state. There's a bit more to it than just the chains, though, it looks like. You can see how it's quite a vertical or straight weapon. And then as I transform, it gets these kind of scythe hooks at the end, like ice picks or something. What a cool, unexpected weapon. I just wouldn't have seen it until much later if it wasn't for a commenter. So thank you to ManuX2000 for highlighting this. So let me know, guys, are there any more unique transformations like this that I just haven't seen? Jeff Capes came in with a great comment to do with fast keybinds for different stuff. Last time we talked about how you can press LB and RT to fast equip and fast unequip mantles. With your weapon out, that works as well. But if you do put your weapon away, there's another one you can access. So if I hold L1 or LB, that obviously pulls up my item wheel. But as I press L2 or LB at the same time, you get this new icon above the item list. And as you see, I scroll through this, it's only showing me certain things. This is apparently only slinger ammo and aimable types, including the net and the throwing knives. Really nice, actually, because I had to set up my radial wheel to mess with that. So on my action wheel, I've got scream pods, flash pods. On my essential items, I've got my large and small dung pods and luring pod. But being able to fast access them in this way, that's genius. And I also found if you press the touchpad in the center of a PlayStation controller, you can pull them up in this way too to quickly swap between them or maybe look at the list. In the same way that you can hold L1 and press the touchpad to pull up the full available list to quickly get to whatever it is you want to get to, if you don't want to use the radial wheel. All of it is to say that there are many options clearly for a lot of quality of life, and you should just lean into the ones that feel good to you. So great tip, Jeff. Thank you. On that note, we also got a comment from Craig Potter 2417 referencing the fact that mantles actually start their cooldown while you're still wearing them in this game compared to, say, World. So while I like the idea of being able to quickly unequip my mantle but keep my weapon out mid-fight, that's still something I want to do because I don't like the way that it kind of keeps it on you and doesn't automatically take it off. It is really nice to know that it starts to recover anyway, even if it's currently on but finished. But another detail I want to add to that is if we hold L1, you can see the current timer of my corrupted mantle is coming off. Just like, say, the timer at the top left with the food buff, it's no longer affected by the quest that you're on. So if I go do a specific hunt, complete that hunt, start a new hunt, it's not going to refresh my mantles or the food buff. That's nice because it means I don't have to keep eating every quest, right? But it does mean that the mantle isn't going to auto refresh hunt to hunt. So on average, in my experience, if I'm doing 3 investigations and I'm speed running as much as I can, I am not getting to use that mantle more than twice in the 3 investigations, which is kind of lame. But with how ridiculously busted and strong Corrupted Mantle is, I guess that's fair enough, but unfortunate. Next up, I want to talk to you about something that's quite cool and very useful. It's the fact that in multiplayer hunts, there's some kind of latency protection. And this seems to work for all kinds of things, whether it's landing that guard at the right moment and triggering a clash, whether it's landing an offset on an attack, or say, even using a focus strike on the same target at the same wound at the same time as others doing the same. What this means is you're actually able to trigger multiple people proccing a clash, an offset, or a focus strike, that kind of thing, all at the same time on the same target. So take a look at these different examples that we've seen in the community recently. Multiple people hitting clashes at the same time. Even up to 4 people can do it at once. There's seemingly no limit. which is visually funny, but very kind and very forgiving. I think this makes sense because if you're going for an offset or say a focus strike on a wound and you hit it on your screen, but then the server says, oh no, you were just behind someone else, it would just feel really bad, like you've been robbed of that focus strike. Not only would that be annoying for any weapon, but some weapons have particularly potent rewards for landing an offset or a focus strike, like activating Power Axe for a charge blade. So having this kind of protection, as it were, to prevent someone taking your clash that you landed or your offset or your focus strike, I think is really nice, but it's also making for really cool multiple clash clips like this. So if you didn't know you could do that in multiplayer, now you do. But something I want to end the episode on is a really cool detail to do with clashes. This was a quick post posted by someone called Omega Ace Games on the Monster Hunter Wilds Reddit, who said they waited 19 years to be able to do this themselves. And what this is a cinematic with Blangonga, where you've got this person desperately running away from this monster, only for the hunter to come in with a big sword and clash, holding it back. And with Blangonga in Wilds as we know it, with a great sword, we have the exact same clash animation. The two hands pressing forward, gripping the great sword on two sides. Now, I'm not certain if this is the case, but I swear I've heard from the devs that this inspired the clash mechanic. So it's no surprise that Greatsword has one of the coolest visually looking clash mechanics in the game, and super cool as a reference that they finally got in. It really feels like Wilds is just doing so much for old Monster Hunter and bringing it forward, whether it's actually engaging with the frenzy mechanic with Gore, Fabius coming back, or Gemma being our smithy. It's really cool stuff. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this look at a variety of things today, and thank you to everyone who made suggestions from that first video. I have a pile of things I already want to look into for not just next time, but quite a few, I'm sure. But if you do have anything you think would fit, then let us know in the comments, and I might just make it into a video. Until next time then though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.